Welcome everyone to Rest Rounds with Eric and Adam. I'm Eric, and this guy over here, that's Adam.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey.
You know what's going to be great is if sometimes it puts you on that side of me, but then the recording it switches. So I'm going to be like this guy over here, and it's like the wall.
Yeah.
So your reaction might work really well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just pointing in any direction. There's guys on each side of me. Yeah. There's a guy sleeping in my hotel bed right now.
That's how vacations go, right? If you're winning.
Right. Well, this is no vacation, let me tell you.
Yeah. Where are you?
I am in the lovely land of magic, Anaheim, California, where we try to hide our homeless population by putting a theme park over it and, walking over campsites. But it's
one way to do it.
Yeah, it's I'm going to sound like an asshole. And I hope I'm just going to throw that out there. But I just came up from breakfast in and I'm not here for a vacation. I'm here for a work function. It's our 100th anniversary with Hill Brothers, the company that I run, which is pretty amazing. It's also the 100th anniversry of Disney, but we beat Disney by a few months. So suck it, Disney. But they're doing a little better financially, I think.
I was going to say they're not doing too bad.
No, they're not. They did okay. They figured out their kinks and everything.
They'll take that L happily.
One day they'll put pants on their duck, but that's splitting hairs. But this town. I mean, I don't know what it is about people, but it's really depressing to go to Disney. I mean, for me, it's just. I'm not even in the park. I'm just in kind of the periphery. And so I'm in a hotel with a lot of families, but it's just like everybody in this area, it's like they leave their sense of spatial awareness at the door. So there's like no spatial awareness. Everybody's just, kind of wandering into each other as if they're entitled to every bit of space that they possibly can. And I know that there's a very, very small percentage. So note that I'm not talking to you if this is you. But, there's a small percentage of people who ride those scooters that really need them. They have some, something that they need they need that assistance. But literally half of the people in this town and in Disneyland are riding those scooters and they don't need them. and it's representative of people that just want to be carried through life. And that's one of my pet peeves. We're here to live it. And, it's just so depressing to see people just, riding around on those scooters, eating garbage and just, and just doing that thing and running into people's space and having expectations. It's just, anyway, land of magic.
Are they eating the garbage?
Happiest place on earth.
Yeah. Are they eating garbage because the concession prices are so high?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I don't fault people for eating garbage there. I mean, I just ate a bunch of
quality stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so that's that. How's karate? How's martial arts?
Yeah, well, speaking of being in people's spaces, the tournament was quite literally, let's get as close as humanly possible. And
I guess know your audience, right?
Like, I don't see the problem, man. No,
right.
It's a good point. Like today, we're going to talk about my tournament and some reflections from it, and a little bit about Disney, obviously. Because that ties in. Oddly enough, it ties in because there is.
I'm going to get you in a chokehold.
Yeah. So when I went to practice after, it was on Thursday. And so I was talking to the guys and they asked me if I did no-gi in short sleeve rash guard or long sleeve. And I said short sleeve. And I have, I'm almost done with my sleeve tattoo. And one of the guys like, dude, that's awesome because that's an intimidation factor. And what I thought in my head was, yeah, I said to him, yeah, it is until I prove that I can't choke you out because I'm really relying on wrestling. And so, and wearing you out or something, because I haven't learned that stuff yet. I've only taken one no-gi class. It's very on par with me in fitness, like an Ironman, going to France, having never ridden more than 56 miles on a bike or running longer than 14 miles in a run. And then saying, hey, let's do both of those things in the mountains. Yeah. Why not? Let's see if we can do it. Not the best plan. I assure you that. But I also thought it was funny because there's this element of intimidation at a tournament that, you people play that game. They're like, I'm a killer and I'm going to, Mike Tyson dead eye stare you and not blink and all that. And I'm realizing I'm not that guy.
Hmm.
So it's not going to read authentic. So like, yeah, maybe I was intimidating when I was standing nervous, calming myself, like just kind of stoic. And then I get on there, the mat, and we shake hands. Hi guy. Nice to meet you. Can't wait to roll with you. Like then all of a sudden it's like, oh, those tattoos are just okay. Never mind. Okay. I thought
Yeah.
you were tough, let's go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because how does people pleasing translate into martial arts, jujitsu,
Yes.
karate? Because I feel the same. I feel that to a higher degree too. I know I'm not an intimidating person. I try to be overly nice to people to make sure that they like me, and then that translates into like, well, I don't want to punch you in the face too hard, or I kind of want to let you win
Yeah.
because I don't want you to feel bad. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's just I can relate to that.
Dude, so that's one of the big takeaways.
Mhm.
I had a lot of takeaways. I'm not going to talk about them all, but I made a couple notes, and that is the biggest one I think that I've been reflecting on every day. And that is this nature of I went out there, we have an agreed upon set of rules that we are going to actively try to sort of murder each other
Mhm.
and break bones and whatever, you got to do, choke me out, whatever. And it still feels like there's an element of respect in that, and there is. I think there's a safety, in that where you don't, as a white belt, maybe know fully what is and isn't safe, so you're kind of like skirting on the edge of it, or I am. And then there's people who just like, oh no, I don't care, bam, I'm coming for you in whatever, and that's ultimately I think how I lost my finals match in nogi. Great guy, but he was like a killer, in
Yeah.
that, and it was clear that he knew what he was doing, and nothing to take away from him. He's a really, really good guy. And the people pleasing thing, I recognized it most in two ways. The first was in nogi. That's how it started, which is, like I said, I've only trained it one day, and was just like, my coach said, hey, he was surprised I did it, because I've not trained it. And he's like, hey, I mean, I'm all about, you going out there, putting yourself in a situation and finding out and testing it and learning. Even if you get beat every time, you learn and be like, wow, I'm really weak here, or I'm strong here. You find out, test yourself in the fires. And I
Yeah.
like doing that. And so I went out there, and his advice was get on top, stay on top. Like, that's it. And so I went up there, he pulled guard, I got on top, and I stayed on top, and I got 7
That's what I
points.
tell my wife too, by the way. Yeah.
I'm like, or we can switch it up and you can get on top.
Sure.
I like playing from the bottom,
Yeah.
off my back. But the thing I learned in that first match was I wanted to do flashy stuff because it wasn't about pleasing the guy on the mat. It was the people who were watching this really probably boring match. I assume, but I mean, the start was good because I mean, he was attacking me, and I was avoiding the attacks and maintaining dominant position, and so it wasn't like boring, but I was like in my head thinking, oh, they're all going to not like this match because I'm thinking about entertaining the crowd or something,
Mm-hmm.
and that's ultimately not. You can't, if you don't have these skill sets, like, you're not going to be entertaining. People aren't there for that. Like, they go to WWE to watch the high flying.
Yeah, right.
Not the local grappling industries or Naga tournament, and watching a Masters division, a 39-year-old guy wrestle for the thrills. So there was that people pleasing at first, and then it was, there was a part of me that felt bad because I wasn't submitting the guy, so I was just getting him really tired.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, man, I'm sorry that I don't know how to finish this choke,
Yeah.
because I have the opportunity to do it. I just don't have the skill and knowledge. So I'm kind of pressuring, and it's probably super annoying. Can't breathe, but it's not enough to make you tap out. So it just felt like I was low grade torturing this guy for 4 minutes instead of finishing him. And so I felt there was that feeling of bad. And then I'm like, at the last minute, I could hear his coaches, so I could hear them tell him what to do because I didn't have anyone there from my team. And I was like, oh, he's going to do that, so I could do this, and I could listen and be coached by his coach because I knew
Mm-hmm.
what they were trying to get him to do, so I could move my leg or whatever. And then they were saying, you're down on points. And I'm like, that means I'm up on points. I just have to
Mm-hmm.
maintain. Oh, we got 1 minute. You got to do it now. And I'm like, I have 1 minute to hold on to this thing. And then
Yeah.
it got to like 47 seconds, and it was 10 seconds. And at 10 seconds, I had this position, and I could have maybe transitioned earlier onto full mount or whatever, but I was like, I'm safe here. And I had him in a headlock, and I just squeezed for like
Yeah.
10 seconds. I was like, oh, I have a lot of strength left. And I just put it, I'm not, and then I just got to be like this rock solid position. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. But for the last 10 seconds up on points, it was right. And so I did that. And that shifted in my mind saying, okay, I feel this. Like, I said to myself, he couldn't have beat me in that moment in the last 10 seconds, but I want this so badly.
Mhm.
I'm going to win this. And it was a first moment where I broke from that people pleasing of feeling bad that this guy was going to lose to feeling like I want it though. I don't
Yeah.
want to let this go. And so that was a shift, which then carried over to my next match. I mean, it was a mess because you have to keep an eye on the clock on the schedule because it's dynamic. And so I had 27 minutes before my finals match. So I went out to my car, got a banana, tried to get a little bit of half a banana in me just to, because it was, those matches were tough. It drains you and you don't want to put too much in your belly because you get upset stomach and throw up, or I don't know. I've never done this before. And then so I'm walking back and I check and they moved me up 27 minutes. So not only was it 27 minutes, now it's you're 1 minute late.
Oh,
And I'm in the
wow.
parking lot and I'm sprinting in flip flops, which I've never done. That's an experience.
Yeah.
And then, so I get in there, take off my stuff, run to the mat, get on the mat. He's waiting. We're 2 minutes, 3 minutes late or whatever. Shake hands, go kind of squaring off. And then he's a really good wrestler, snaps me down. And my worst fear that I said in the last episode came true. And I got submitted in 10 or 15 seconds in a guillotine, just solid, bit my tongue, 3 lacerations on my tongue and a sore trachea. And I was like,
Oof.
embarrassed, and it sucked, but I realized nobody else cared. Like I watched him go to his team and they were celebrating him and everything. And it wasn't like, oh, what a loser that guy is. He's so weak. And no, it was just, they were talking about good job to him. And I was just kind of like, nobody around me seems to care that I just got smoked. Like they just went
Yeah.
on with their day. And I didn't think I'd feel okay with that. And I was. I
Yeah.
felt like on my knees after I tapped, I just shook my head and laughed. And I was like, oh my God, it happened. How did it happen? I need to deal with that. And so I took that to yesterday on a one-on-one lesson with my coach. And he's like, what do we need to work on? I'm like, I got guillotined. I don't want to be guillotined. And so with a brown belt, I got to spar one-on-one for like 3 rounds and he picked apart my game in certain areas and we worked on some things. And I'm like, that's what it is. That was one of the smaller, which is big takeaway is
Yeah.
you go to a tournament to find out. And in a way you can't in class because you're with people, you're doing a certain skill set, a certain sequence of moves. You go to a tournament, it's all bets are off. You're going to find out where the holes are in your game and where you're strong. And then what are you going to do about that? And that's life. You're going
Yeah.
to find out where are you strong, where are you weak. And the best friends that I have, the ones that I love to be around are the ones that can take that weakness and say, I'm going to strengthen that. I'm going to work on that. I'm not just going to stay where I'm strong and only do that and then blame other people or situations because my way didn't work. And it's not because I have to change, it's because you're the problem. Like
Yeah.
you cheated, you whatever. No, I'm going to find out how you beat me. And then I'm going to go put effort and energy into that and still develop my game in other ways and still be
Yeah.
strong. But it's a total experience.
Well, here's why I'm really glad you got second, and congratulations on that, by the way, because that is a huge accomplishment. But but I'm going to tell you, and this is going to sound super maybe disparaging at first, so please take it with the spirit it's intended. But I'm so glad you got second. I'm so glad that you lost the final round and you lost that first place because that makes you hungry. If you'd got first place and if you just dominated the crowd, you would have been bored with it. And it would have like translated later into, where do I grow from here? But now you have this opportunity. You took that back to your coach and you said, I don't want this piece, this specific piece. That's a huge lesson. That's victory, my friend. You were victorious on that day because you learned a very, very powerful lesson. You took it back and you wanted to get better. So man, I'm really, really proud of you for that. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I really appreciate it because that mirrors, this is the third kind of way I've heard that in a sense, in a different way. And I really appreciate the way you framed it because it's true. I also would have been like, if I get first, then I always have to get first. And it's like, bro, it's your first competition. Like you can't have, I don't want that standard of pressure. So I've already lost, got out of the way, lost in 10 seconds. Probably might happen again someday. I don't know, whatever, but I'm going to work. The day I went back to practice, my coach, smiled at me and we had talked, so it wasn't the first time he'd seen me or talked to me, but it was the first time in person. And he shook my hand with the biggest smile and says, "Hey there, champ."
Yeah.
And that felt really good. And then, we went to class. He gave me my first stripe that day. And so that was super significant. And he told me the reason I got it was because I know why I'm in the room. I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm going to succeed. I know that I'm dedicated to the work that it's going to take to get to where I want to go because I have that clarity and I show up, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so that was a great reflection. And then the next day I talked to my co-founder of Project Echelon, shout out. And he answered the phone. What's up, champ? And so I got called champ twice. And that's the first 2 times in my life I've ever been called champ. And I told Eric, my co-founder, yeah, that's just, and I was like, thank you, but I don't know how to take that because I got second, and so I don't know that I'm a champ. And he says,
Yeah.
no, fuck that, you won,
Mm-hmm.
you beat people, you're a champ, you're on that podium, you know, like, so you are a champion. And I was like, I'll take it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not braggadocious. It's not like, damn right, you respect me. No, like, I'm just, part of the problem we have as humans is not being able to take people we trust, their compliments and affirmations, and embody them. We refute them, and when we refute them, we diminish ourselves and our experience, and it's never going to be good enough if we do that. So you have to take wins and losses with a grain of salt, with a grain of humility, but also embrace those compliments from people who actually love you, who care
Yeah.
about you, who are invested in you. Because I've gotten plenty of comments of negativity, you know, about how it's not a big deal, how I'm weak, I'm the product of a weak society, I'm fat, whatever comments you're going to get. And I used to not want to put myself out there because I just don't want to deal with it. But now I
Mm-hmm.
realize I have so much clarity that they don't really hurt me. They just make me shake my head because I'm like, dude, if you're still saying that I'm not a man, I'm a product of a weak society when I'm literally training to fight and choke and submit and do things that would lead to murder, and I'm
Yeah.
going out to strangers in a tournament and I'm fighting and then I'm getting on the podium, if that's not enough, I don't know what is. I
Right.
went to war. I'm fighting, you know, like, but I'm still not a man. Why? Because I care about these moments and reflect on them. I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that kind of gets back to whatever, the pet peeves of people in the Disney arena, right? You're in the arena, you're fighting, and the people in the peanut gallery who are just like, entertain me, bitch. It's just like, what do you do for that? It's like, and so I can always sympathize with the umpires or the
Yeah.
referees or the people playing on the field who maybe make a decision in the moment that doesn't
Mm,
result in the way that they do it. And the
yep.
guy drinking beer in the stands is yelling, "What are you doing, you idiot?" and calling whatever disparaging thing. My gosh, the courage it takes to get out there
Yeah.
to actually be in the arena, and that's what you're doing, man. I mean, yeah, so so yeah, so that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and you are too. Like, don't, I know that it's kind of focused on me because I went to a tournament, but I think that's one of the things that constitutes a quality friendship is both people being in the arena. And that's just, it's personal life too. It's not just, you know, sports. Like,
Yeah,
it's really hard to show up in your life and to take those losses, take those wins and reflect and figure out how you can show up more fully. And, you know, you and I, we both do that. We talk about it, and that's kind of the foundational work of a lot of my friendships. And I realize a lot of men specifically don't know how to do that because they don't know how to be vulnerable, not in the pity me sense, but being real, saying
yeah,
what's going on with you, you know. And when I show that to someone, I've had a lot of people come up to me and show me how much they want that, because they just start telling me and asking me questions about life, and you can tell they're asking questions not to get to know me as much as it is to get to know themselves.
hmm,
And you go, this is beautiful, this is a beautiful exchange, because you're training right now, you're in the arena, you're trying to figure out how to play this game, and it's not just jujitsu, it's life. and
yeah,
and I think that's a big jump for a lot of people. And people have also told me, you know, like, oh my god, how insecure are you, how much attention do you need? And it's not about attention. When I share on Instagram or do this, I know it's not for attention. It's partly for my own benefit to continue to talk and share, because silence is the thing that killed me almost. That's
hmm,
that's really what it came down to. Trauma, yeah, yeah. It's the silence around that trauma that led me to
yeah,
not want to be here anymore. So I will not allow myself to be silent. And if that means sitting in front of a camera, speaking every week, and recording messages, and then listening to the playback as I edit them, that's how I journal. That's how I stay connected with it. And when I share that with people, it's not so I can get 1,000 likes and become an influencer. I got a message. I've gotten a few messages since starting this, and they're audio messages of people sharing when I shared my first white stripe. And then,
Yeah,
people are like, wow, don't pat yourself on the back. I don't do it to pat myself on the back. I do it to demonstrate what I want others to find for freedom, because it's what my freedom
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
And they shared stories with me privately with how they got their first stripe after years of work or whatever their situation was. And they went home and they cried because it was so important to them. They can't share that story on social media. They don't have a place to put it, but our story and connecting to it is our greatest power. It's our greatest asset. So I'm not doing it for attention. I'm trying to open a door for others to walk through demonstrating what it looks like to be empowered and unafraid that my vulnerability isn't a weakness. It allows me to connect with me and my story and figure out what I'm going to do with that information without someone giving you permission to do that in a society that doesn't necessarily honor depth. They want quick TikTok kind of humor, which I enjoy. Don't get me wrong, but we need both. And
Yeah.
so that's not attention. It's demonstration. It's reflection for myself.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that, because that is one of my biggest fears too in doing this. On the side, like when I started my podcast, Flow Over Fear, like that's a little promotion too.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Absolutely.
No, no, I was worried because I'm also in running this company, this 100-year-old company, that other people in that company would say, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you sharing so well? You just want attention. You just want, you're trying to do something different." And it gets back to the arena thing. I want to help people to reframe their relationship with fear, so they don't go through life and get to the end of their life and have this look back on their life and say, "Oh man, I should have done that. I should have just leaned into it." Because for you and I, Eric, we've been able to do that. We've been able to look at those things that we want to do and do them, and pursue that, so that we can look back on our life on that day when we are about to leave it, and say that. But
Yeah.
my fears came true. I mean, I had people from our company, when they're giving me feedback, saying, "You should probably stop doing that because you're sending the wrong message." I'm like, "How am I sending the wrong message?" It's like, "Well, you're showing people that you're just not committed to this company." I'm like, "How could I be more committed to this company than helping people to be bold and take the right kind of action?" I mean,
Yeah.
those things are complementary. We don't want to lean into this idea that we might be, pissing off the people that are sitting in the peanut gallery or in the crowds, and being critical instead of being constructive.
Mm-hmm.
We want to surround ourselves with the people that are constructive. And I've had the fortune of doing that with people like yourself, where I can, I can try new things and be celebrated for it, and also get the proper feedback on how I can continue to grow. Not just like, stop this and just and hey, you need to stop doing that so you can pay more attention to me, right?
Who wants
So
attention?
yeah, right. Yeah, and yeah, we're the ones who want attention.
Yeah.
So it's that, I mean, for the most part, the thing about that though is those are the loud critics. Those are the hecklers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a stadium full of 50,000 people, and a couple of guys are loud and
Yeah.
obnoxious and drinking too much and throwing shit onto the field.
Mm-hmm.
But the remainder of them are on your side,
Yeah.
for the most part.
There's a lot of them that are on my side, and
Yeah.
that's what you have to lean into. Is there's really influential people, and I don't say influential like influencers, but people who are black belts and have, they're successful in the industry and in many ways, and they have followed me and they have commented and have affirmed like, no, you're doing the right things. And it's the people that have private accounts with a couple of followers or whatever that aren't really doing anything
Yeah.
to be in the arena. They're the ones that always give the comments. So it's like, well, whose affirmation or condemnation are you going to take? And the funny thing about that attention thing is like, man, Walt Disney, he sure wanted attention, didn't he? Dwayne
Yeah.
the Rock Johnson, man, every business that is successful thrives because they have attention. If you don't have any attention, like, it's not about like the self, adulation. It's about you. To be successful, someone has to care about your message. So that
Right.
is attention. I'm sorry, that is true. Tony Robbins, anyone in the world who has succeeded has gotten so because of the attention they were able to amass. Now, what was your reason for gaining the attention or for seeking it? Or were you seeking it for just the insecurities that you have? Or was it a necessity because it just was a side effect of
Mhm.
you living an authentic and connected, vulnerable, value driven life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and it it reminds me of kind of where we started this conversation was when you said Walt Disney wanted attention. I picture him starting his vision for this company of Disney,
Mhm.
where he gets out of the shower one morning on his ready to go to work, or whatever he was doing at the time. He gets out of the shower, and for some reason that morning he puts his shirt on first, and he looks in the mirror and he sees himself pantsless with just a shirt on, and he says to himself, "Oh my God, that's it." And he's like turning around. He's like, "Yeah, that's the thing. This is gonna make me millions." And he goes out and he looks to his wife and he's like, "Am I right?" And she's like, "Yes, yes, yes."
Oh my God, you
So
look like a duck.
yeah, that's right. Put on a sailor hat. Seriously, put on a sailor hat.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Walt Disney's kinks.
Right, but yeah, but it was like, and then he took that to the world. It was a vision that I'm sure some people say, hey, people might have said, and I don't know this, maybe people in the 20s were a little bit weirder than we give them credit for, but I'm guessing some people said, hey, you might want to put some pants on that duck.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You would
Or
think.
yeah, but
You would think
he
that
did.
because the mouse had pants to start with.
The mouse had pants, yeah,
So
with no shirt, as I understand it, right?
yeah, what is with that? It's so
I
strange.
don't know.
But at least he had pants. But
Yeah,
then you
and
remove the
suspenders.
pants, you've
Yeah.
already established in this universe that there must be something to cover up.
You're
But
right.
the feathers don't
Yeah.
need to, or because the butt's in water, it's
Yeah.
got to go free balling it. It's a very strange world.
Yeah, and it shows that we don't have to be perfect in order to be successful, because we have Goofy, who I think is a dog,
I think so.
and Pluto. Pluto's completely naked and can't
Yeah.
talk, but somehow Goofy had the realization. Maybe found the tree of knowledge and was like,
Yes.
"Oh, I
That's
need
it.
to have clothes on," because that knowledge made me. It's wow. Now we're getting deeper into
Yeah.
this,
And who
man.
is more blissful?
Yeah.
The one who ate from the tree of knowledge,
Mhm.
or the dog who just runs around not knowing he's naked?
Right, chasing Chip and Dale, who also, as I understand it, only have T-shirts
Yeah.
and no
Hawaiian
pants.
t-shirt and a leather jacket when they're
Yeah,
at the
that's
Rescue
right.
Rangers.
Yeah, still no
But did
pants.
they even wear clothes in their first outing? I don't think they did. And then he put a hat on. That's just that's a whole different show of like, let's track the clothing of our favorite childhood
Yeah,
cartoons
right.
and figure out who was really an offender and who was on the up and up.
Who had? Yeah, this could be this could be a conversation with our therapists. All right, we could do an Excel worksheet on which characters we love the most, rate them 1 to 10, and how many of them wore pants. And I'd probably blow my mind. It's like, oh my God, the ones I love the most didn't wear pants.
Yeah.
What is wrong with me?
Oh no. Oh man, that would be interesting. What do you call it? Like not an ink blot, like a Rorschach, whatever you call those tests.
Yeah.
Like an ink blot. Which Disney character
Right.
upsets you and which one makes you happy? Just cycle through them. So one of the main takeaways that I had relates to childhood in a way. Since we're talking about childhood and our traumas based on Disney characters, the big takeaway that I had, like I said, I had many, and we started with one that was a little bit more, I think, obvious, but this one hit me in a very emotional way. And that was in high school, in even younger, whenever I would compete, I told you I slid into first and lost the game, made a choice and I was judged for it. And my dad couldn't come to my games because he would lose his temper. It was too real to him. It was, and it was probably triggering to him in some way where he was seeing me try to succeed where he didn't. And so he was vicariously like experiencing something, and he believed in me so much and he pushed me so hard. And so if I let him down, sometimes I think I intentionally screwed up. And this gets back to the people pleaser, because this is where it comes from for me is my dad. Two things. One, he didn't come to my wrestling meets and told me so. Like, why he wouldn't is because he couldn't see me lose. He didn't know if he could handle that emotionally. And I was actually really happy he didn't show up.
Yeah.
I wasn't really, though. I know that now. I after going to this tournament, I realized how, man, I wish my dad could have seen me, win today. And, he's 10 years past, and, he's looking down, he's part of me. I have the tie over my shoulder for crying
Mhm.
out loud. You know, like he's still part of me, and I get to redeem him in these moments, and I get to connect with him and kind of have those conversations in my soul, you know, and however I experience that. So
Right.
he's definitely not saying he didn't see me in France. He didn't see, you know, but he wasn't there to embrace me. I didn't get to see his emotional response, and I know it would have just he would have been so over the moon seeing me ride in France. He would have gone to France, I'm sure of it. He would have been at my tournament, and he would have, you know, been so excited to see me win. And
Yeah.
I recognize how much I probably did want that as a kid, but we didn't have that relationship where I felt safe and he didn't feel like it was just really, there's a lot wrapped up into it. He's a really good guy, really great man, but we had a disconnect for a lot of
Yeah.
reasons. And one of them started when I was young, and it's simple. My dad had a huge competitive streak. It was so bad that if we were playing cards and I was winning or my mom was winning a little bit too much, my dad got pissed. Like it got real bad in our house. So I would intentionally lose sometimes. And so I began to do this pattern where I would diminish myself to lose on purpose in some ways. Two reasons for that. One, well, I didn't really lose, did I? Because I wasn't trying very hard. So that
Yeah.
was an excuse that I built based off of a truth that was I'm afraid to win because I want you to like me.
Yeah.
And I did that at my tournament in gi. I was, you know, in the semifinals again, and that match, I it was the best match I've ever done. The best match, like I've been doing this for 10 years. In the 6 months I've been training, this was, and of the 7 matches I've done in my life, you know, this was the best one. No, but like I did things, I executed techniques that I was just like, oh, this is smooth. This is how I want to be all the time. And getting dominant positions, seeing, you know, Toriando passes and playing my game and not abandoning it. And then
Yeah.
when I'm outside of my comfort zone, knowing I understand enough about body position, I can do this switch here and sweep. And then I got to the front headlock. I was working a guillotine choke, and they hurt because it's right on your trachea, and I
Yeah.
still can't swallow really well because I got guillotined twice, and I'm working it, and I'm, you know, working my thumb in, trying to get position, and I'm just feeling kind of bad, and I'm like, man, he's gonna be sad if I win. That old story of like lose on purpose because you want these people to like you, and
Yeah.
if you hurt this guy or it's uncomfortable, and you know, but I have a sore throat. Like this is just the part of the game you're playing.
Right.
And then so I get him in the choke, and I'm working, and I finally get it there, and I see his hand go like this, and I thought I didn't have it yet. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm close. And I tightened up and I really, you know, compressed because I don't know what it feels like to get the choke in yet. And
Yeah.
then he tapped. And that felt really good. But at the shaking hands afterwards, for some reason in that match, I wanted him to win so bad. Like I wanted,
Yeah.
because I want people to win so bad, but I'm competing against you, so no, I want to win. But I still was like, I wanted him to be okay. I didn't, and I was thinking of that in the same sense. Like, I don't want my dad to be mad.
Right.
And then so I went to the finals and I competed against the guy who beat me in 10 seconds in Nogi. And I was like, shoot. But he watched my match. I watched his matches, and he was like, dude, that was really nice work that you did.
Yeah.
Like there was some smooth, and I was like, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And we went at it, and I was up 7-2. And I don't know how much time was left, or I didn't even know it was up on points because his coach was quiet. Damn it. But it was a really, really good match. It was intense. I was initially kind of nervous because I just was like, I'm not getting guillotined.
Yeah.
That's my thing is I'm not getting, so I kept distance. I even let him kind of get in and take me down because I just wanted to control myself to the mat and then play my game. And I did, and it was good. I got to sweep him. I got to mount, and then he got out of it. I went to try to do a back take, and then he got out of that and pulled away. And I tried to. Anyway, we end up in this scramble, and then he gets me in a guillotine. I needed to just not go for a submission. I needed to control, and I see that now. But I was up on points. I was winning, but then I felt like almost good in a sense, in a bad way, that I didn't win because I was afraid that his coaches, and I'm seeing my dad being angry because I won too much that day.
Mhm.
And that's a voice that I actively am fighting against because it's not based in reality. It's based on a key decision I made as a child to be safe, but I'm not out here living my life to be safe.
Yeah.
Sure, I am. I'm not driving drunk. I'm trying to get good sleep so I can drive safely. I'm not being stupid and like hurting myself to get this win at this tournament that ultimately doesn't really matter. It's just a metaphor for who I am and what I want out of this life. And it's a test. It's a crucible. It's an arena, but it doesn't define me as a man. So being smart, being safe, but also being really aggressive. And I got overexcited, lost control, and I lost the match. But there is that underlying part of me that some people I don't want to beat.
Yeah.
Not saying that if I just chose to beat them, I could handle them any day of the week. But if you don't have that confidence, you're not going to win. And there was an intimidation. There was a little bit of a fear. And that partly was like, I'm being boring. I should submit him because I'm in dominant positions, and a good practitioner would be able to finish this right now. But I'm just sitting here trying to maintain position. So I'm going to go for something. And then I ended up losing. And that's fine. I got second place, super proud of that. But there's a lot wrapped up in that where I'm like, okay, that is something I need to deal with. And that comes from the connection with my father. So both I recognize I made him proud, but there's this other side of the coin that means I have not yet healed a wound that he gave me, not because he was a bad man, but because he was an imperfect man. And I was a little kid trying to figure it out. And I didn't have guidance for that. So I have some work to do on my game and my psyche.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's really powerful that you say that, because, with regard to your dad in particular, that's, you can understand why he went in the direction he did because of his imperfections and all that kind of stuff. But it's so powerful to think that you were when you were competing, when you were in competition, there's no way you could have won because you're competing against two opponents. You're competing against the opponent on the field, but you're also competing against the opponent in your mind that is really powerful.
Yeah.
And even, with your dad there, it's like, well, I'm glad my dad, like, it's easy to look back and say, well, I wish my dad was there to see me win. But in that moment, there's so much anxiety and so much pain because what if I lose? Those uncertainties, what if I lose? And I don't, and this isn't because your dad's just a dick. This is because your dad, there's that idea, where you're saying, like, that disappointment factor where it's like you legitimately let down your dad. If your dad's just a dick, it's like, well, screw you, dad. But, if it's like, oh man, there's genuine hurt there. So that's powerful. And to overcome that, kudos to you to get through that. But there's definitely an element there of like, well, yeah, I don't want to win because I don't want to let other people down. And, so much so that you're willing to embrace the pain, because we think as people, like, in those situations, it's like, I feel the same way. It's like, if I get punched in the face, it's like, it's okay if you punch me in the face. I just really don't want to punch you in the face and like hurt your feelings because you might kick my ass and punch me in the face. It's a weird thing. It's like, I just don't want you to punch me in the face in anger.
Yeah.
It's like weird. Yeah.
Did I make you mad?
Yeah. I know my nose is broken, but was it out of anger, or are you mad at me?
Was that choke okay?
Yeah, right.
No, it wasn't, but it's kind of what I signed up for.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. And in reality, I'm starting to learn too, in that process, that by fighting fair but hard with people in sparring, I'm helping them to learn, because it's fair to them that I do try to punch them in the face so that they could learn to block it, so that they could learn to do that. And it's not out of anger. It's out of trying to make each other stronger, sharpening iron. Yeah.
The last session I went for training before my comp was with I don't remember, for 4 days left, I think, something like that, before the thing, and I didn't want to train all the way up to it.
Yeah.
And so the last day I went, there was a guy who I'm friends with, but he had been dealing with an injury to his knee, and he was like, "Hey, I just got to find someone." He was talking about that will go light. He doesn't want to hold anyone back, and I'm like, "Pick me, because I am here trying not to go hard, because I just want to stay in the flow a little bit, but go light." And so if it's agreed upon that we're both going to go kind of light, then we can partner up, and that's good. Not feel like we're holding back, because I really do, when I'm at my best, body feels good, if I'm in training and we get to spar, and it's positional sparring. It's not all out like a Saturday open mat. This is, you're in this position now for 30 seconds to a minute, whatever. You're working to get out, or the coach will give you specific things. Sometimes it's whatever happens, happens. So like the last class I went to was 3 minutes at the end, whatever happens, happens. And
Yeah.
so that's fun. But whenever it's that way, 20 seconds, a minute, whatever, 3 minutes, I'm going hard. I'm treating it like a comp.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still learning, is that okay? Because I think it has to be. Like, I don't want to. We drilled for many minutes, and that's 20%, 40% just to give feedback and to feel it. But you have to let those reps sink in. And
Yeah.
then when you go to competition or you go to these sparring sessions, it's totally different. Now, we spar, I got like a pant leg and a collar, and it's kind of like an ankle pick or something. And we start in that position and go, and then I can get you down, but I can't yet get to the ankle pick position. I can't get to that perfect setup, but I know if I ever do, I know what I'm supposed to do. So there's so many steps that come with it that
Mm-hmm.
if you don't go hard. So I went, like I said yesterday, with my brown belt coach, and he's not my brown belt coach. He's a brown belt and he's my coach for one-on-one lessons. And we started off with what was it, like a 4 minute, or I forget. We did a 5 minute round or whatever. And just, he's like, light. We're going
Yeah.
light. I just want to sense where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, so we can know what to do for the rest of the hour. And we went light, and it was fun because even in that light, he's so good that he could have submitted to me 10 times.
Right.
I'm very well aware he's going to certain positions to see what I'll do to work it. And his comment was, I know you're just doing what you know how to do, because he would go turtle and I would cross face, grab tricep, and try to break down his base like I did in wrestling, which is legit, but that's not the name of the game. And
Yeah.
so I kind of was like, yeah, I kind of don't know what I'm doing here. So accurate. But then, you don't, at the last thing we did was a 6 minute round, just kind of a live round. And again, it's not, he didn't say go light, but full well, I'm not here to try to put him through his paces, and he's not here to put me through mine, because he can destroy me anytime he wants. But he's giving me enough resistance to show me and put me in worlds that I don't know anything about, but not punish me too bad. He gets me in a position and I'm like, yep, okay, you could totally knee bar me, you could heel hook, you could, so there's benefit in that. Like, okay, there's a
Yeah.
whole ocean out here that I don't know anything about, but he got me in a guillotine, and, he got me in it, and I tapped, and I was expecting him to reset,
Mm-hmm.
to let go and reset. And instead he lets me out of it. And then as I'm picking my head up just casually, he leaps up and he grabs me again to put me in the guillotine. And then I'm fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And we continued on for the next, 2 minutes of the round or whatever. And it really was, shocked me in a really good way, because I was expecting him to just let me up, but he knew he needed to catch me unexpecting, so that so he could see, like, well, are you thinking about this? Are you remembering what to do? And he would give me situations like that, and it was a lot of pressure, and I was applying what he had taught me, and he was letting me apply it,
Yeah.
and as a way of kind of saying, good, good, good. But if I didn't do what he taught me, he would switch me, and all of a sudden I'd be in mount, whatever, like I'd be on the bottom, and I don't know what to do. But so that being with a really great practitioner is so helpful, because when you're white belt, you're crazy, you're a lot of but when you're with someone and you respect that person, and you're not like, I'm a one stripe white belt, I'm going to tap me a brown belt and do stupid stuff, but you recognize that if you submit him, it's because he let you.
Yeah.
You can have a really great experience and learn a lot. I think I learned a ton in that 1 hour, that, because it was a lot in class.
Yeah.
You have a lot of show and tell, and good, it's not intense, but this was really it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of action, and that really sunk in. How much we'll find out, but I know it made me better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you learn most from those people that are steps ahead of you, and with the respect of learning from them. I mean, that's beautiful. And by the way, congratulations on your stripe, dude.
Thank you.
I know that's a huge step in
Mm-hmm.
jujitsu, so that's huge.
Yeah,
and well deserved.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I like to, I'm trying to, this is one stripe, but I think about what that means to me. And when I say showing up, I think I mentioned it earlier. It's not just showing up. Like you have to do something once you show up, but the first step is showing up. It's stepping into the arena.
Right.
And that stripe is, hey, you've been doing this for 6 months. Hey, you went to a tournament. I honor that. Like that was ballsy. And you got second. Like here is it, this stripe does not mean now you will never be beat by a no stripe white belt again. This does
Mm-hmm.
not mean now you can compete with blue belt. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that you have shown that you know why you're here and you're going to do the things that you need to do, whether that's taking a couple days off because your tendonitis flared up because you went too hard, or you're going 3 times a week or four
Yeah.
times a week, whatever. I'm finding my way and I'm making sure every decision I make is for longevity so that I can do this because I know I knew it before, but now I really know after competing, after rolling with my coach yesterday, the path is long. The journey is never ending because these guys have been doing it for some time and
Right.
they're still not to the peak of where they want to go. And we're all on this path together. We're all on this journey walking side by side. And I find there is beauty now. I used to want to be a black belt in 4 years, be the fastest ever. And now I recognize the beauty of it. Even Ironman, you're going to have to do it 3 years of training before I can do one. I want to do it next year.
Yeah.
The beauty in recognizing that it takes time is it gives you something to look at for 3 years. It gives you something to look at for 20 years. And when you have something that challenges you for 20 years and you're hungry for it, you've given yourself 20 years of growth, of guaranteed, as long as you stick with it. If I go and beat a video game, I feel satisfied, but it took me a week.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like maybe in COVID times in 2020, I got into video games and they helped me in certain ways. And they kind of blocked out the fact that I was so lonely, but they served a purpose. And now they have to be reintegrated in a new way. If I wanted to play them, they can't just be like my obsession or whatever. But jujitsu is one of those things that I have the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That it's going to always challenge me. It's never going to be easy, but I will make progress.
Right.
And that is incredibly exciting.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I know how cliche it is to say the joy is in the journey, but that's because it's true. Cliches are often cliches because they're true. and yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Ironman. It took me 4 years to get to the Ironman World Championship and to cross the finish line. When I crossed the finish line, it was glorious. There was this amazing euphoria of crossing the finish line. And then before I even stepped down the ramp, before the person guided me down the ramp, I was thinking to myself, "Where's the pizza?" That's it. That's the achievement. Leading up to it, I can look back on that with a lot of joy, and that's where I look back on. That's what I look back on and remember is like the training, how good I felt, how healthy I was, how fit I was, and that's how I look at everything now. It's like, and when you look at achievement, it's like when you look at something you want to strive for, if it's jujitsu or if it's just getting 6-pack abs or if it's losing 10 pounds or whatever it might be, is there something behind it? Is there juice in it? Because if there's not any of that juice in it and you're just getting it to get the experience, it's like, okay, well, you're not going to finish it. You're not going to continue.
Yeah.
Find the thing that keeps lighting up. For me right now, it's karate for the same reason, because it's an ongoing journey. It's like, it's not just to get a black belt one day. It's to enjoy the journey and keep growing and continuous improvement. That's where fulfillment is. Same thing with banjo. I'm learning to play the banjo, and it's great to just learn these new skills and apply them. And it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is very true in so many different areas. And with Ironman specifically versus jiu-jitsu, maybe it's the same with you in karate. I find it's a lot easier to find sustainability with jiu-jitsu. I was training less than I should have been training for Ironman, and that was around 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
So for me to be bare minimum training was 10 hours a week, 8 hours a week, and that wasn't enough. So really it needed to probably be 15, I would say, would be a pretty good training load. That's a part-time job almost. That's a lot. But if I'm doing jiu-jitsu, if I was to be at my peak, my goal is eventually having 3 sessions a week. That's 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. that is a lot more sustainable, a lot more achievable than trying to make 15 hours. My family doesn't feel, I don't feel like I'm neglecting them because or not neglecting. I don't feel like I'm fighting to go on my 5-hour bike ride every week or whatever. It's just like, hey, all right, well, see you in an hour and a half, see you in 2 hours, because half-hour travel time, whatever.
Right.
So, and they're like, bye, Dad, kick everyone's ass. Like, okay, we're not doing that today, but okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get that vibe from when I was Ironman training. And again, you can do it without having those issues, but that wasn't the arena for me to do for longevity.
Right.
And so finding that and being okay to say, dude, Ironman France, Ironman Wisconsin, I did 2 of these things and some halves. I'm so proud of that. And I get the memory and I get to relive it, and I have the medal and I have story to pull from, and it keeps me connected. I just had to differentiate connection and purpose and path. And that connection is always going to be with me. Just like you got the world championships, you went there. Is that, I remember after that, you were like, I'm going to try to make it and be pro. Like that was kind of the next, like, that's the next tier that am I going to win Kona? Is that the next thing? Am I going to go pro? And then you, I think, travel down that path a bit, and you're like, no.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's exactly right. Because you get to a certain point and you ask yourself, is this serving me or some other purpose, or is it, or is it serving a greater purpose? And, for me, it was the growth I experienced from getting to Hawaii, recognizing that I could continue to do things that I thought I never could do. Mm-hmm. And that first came with sobriety. And then it was just reaffirmed with getting to Kona. And it was like, I can, could I have made it pro? Maybe. I bet if I worked hard enough, quit my job and like just focus just on that. But the sacrifices that it would have required were too incredible. And was it going to be worth it? Mm-hmm. What was the payoff? So to me, it wasn't. And I recognized that I achieved everything that I wanted to in that case. And now I was just kind of, trying to, it was turning into more of a obsession kind of thing. Mm. And so maybe, one day I'll probably get back to it because I'll miss it and I'll want to experience it again and maybe prove to myself that I can do it again over 50. Mm-hmm. But right now I've got other things I want to focus on.
Sure.
I want to serve the world in a more empowered way. And that's where, speaking comes in. That's where karate mm-hmm. comes in. That's where I love the idea of the science of mastery, of discovering how people can enjoy the journey, can find the thing that they want, can establish these dreams and achieve them in the most effective amount of time possible. And that's happening again with karate, with banjo, with eventually cycling across the United States, with building a speaking career. Those things, light me up right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got to find those things. And I remember you gave me a phrase that when you wanted to train to go back to Kona, one of the things you told me when you stopped was, for what? Like you said, why am I? And you said it felt like athletic masturbation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was just for your own ego, for your own satisfaction. But really, the powerful thing that we all need to recognize is,
and all masturbation is athletic, by the way, if you do it like me. Anyway.
Or Daffy or Donald Duck.
Right.
Just easy access all day.
Yes.
No pesky pants getting in the way.
Pesky pants. That's another Disney character.
Pesky pants. Good Lord. Oh, the cartoons we could make. But the experience is with you for a lifetime, but everything we do, even if we walk away from it, is still part of our story. And it's always good to, I think, reflect on the successes and the failures and figure out the story we're telling ourselves about those experiences. And that's always going to be an empowered conversation, even though it can feel like it's not. It can quickly become disempowering, where you're justifying why you suck or are a failure or whatever. But hey, I got tapped out in 10 seconds and I'm not a failure. I got back on the mat and got second place. I went and refought that same guy that tapped me out in 10 seconds. Did I tell myself a negative story at first? Yeah. A little bit of fear-based story. But then that fear was like, I'm going to get tapped out again. And then it went to, I am going to be successful if I can avoid that jump guillotine from him, because I know he's got it. And I did that. and I stayed out of his range. I connected, let him get grips, and I controlled, the takedown where I knew he was going to take me down. And people might disagree with me on that, but I was going to allow him because I knew I couldn't take him down. I didn't want to pull guard, but I tried to get in a position where the takedown would not harm me, wouldn't be like a suplex and a slam, and he wouldn't have access to a guillotine. Mm-hmm. Get down to the ground. That was my plan. It worked because I didn't get guillotined. Success number 1. Okay, success number 2. Now I've got to sweep him or avoid the chokes that he's trying to throw at my collar or whatever. I did that. It was micro goals within the fight. And that's what I told myself is it's not about beating this guy. It's about doing the best that I can and giving him a good fight.
Yes.
Because that's what I felt like I robbed from him. That's what I felt when I didn't give him a good fight, because we want to go there for a good fight.
Right.
And so I made those choices and I was victorious in that, and I made a mistake because I'm a white belt and we do that. I think we always, I was looking at black belts getting tapped out in guillotines, it happens to everyone on every single level.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you're not a failure. I'm not a failure for that. I showed up and I gave it my best. And the final thing I'll say that meant a lot to me is after that match with him, his coach came up to me and gave me dabs, gave me knuckles and was like, dude, good job. And that meant a lot to me because he saw me get beat in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he saw me show up and fight and almost win that match on points. And then I screwed up and he got me in the guillotine. I mean, this guy that beat me, he got second in the absolute division as well. So he got second place out of everybody who was competing. So this is a really good competitor.
Yeah.
And I got respect from the coach saying, good fight.
Yes.
And that meant a lot to me because I gave it everything I had.
Yeah.
And I made a mistake. I wasn't better than him on that day, but I know I can beat him. I know I can win. And I'm encouraged by that. I'm hopeful because I know I can win and I proved it to myself that I can. Mm-hmm. So now I train with even greater purpose because I put myself in the fire and found out that I didn't get burned. Yeah. I got hungrier. And that's really exciting. And that's those are a few of the takeaways that I'll share today.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. Congratulations. You deserve the glory and now you have the opportunity to keep growing. So keep up the good work, buddy.
I will. And
go pantsless today. I think that's the lesson we should all learn.
Who needs those pesky pants?
Who needs those pesky pants?
Avoid felonies. Okay. Until next time, journey well, my friends. And as always,
bye-ya!